Into the papers, let's quickly explore what they have for us. And we'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper, but let me announce that we'll be joined shortly by media consultant Liz Hayfron Asari. Okay, doke. So we start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Fight insecurity, SECOM urges African leaders. And of course, the very first time that a Ghanaian is becoming head of the Catholic Church in Africa, so to speak, His Eminence Richard Cardinal Kuya Bawober, president of SECOM. I'll bring you some details of that story on page 16. We also have law school entrance exams, prospective students to sign undertaking. That's according to the General Legal Counsel. And this statement has stirred the hornet's nest because it's got a lot of people talking about why students have to sign an undertaking of this nature. Yesterday, interacting with Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, I actually read this undertaking that students have to sign. You sign away your rights to get any retallying of your scores. You sign away your rights to basically seek any redress, any form of redress on the back of this exam. You don't have the right to even know what the pass mark is. And I ask, especially as a student of law myself, some people are afraid in my position to talk about these issues because guess what? They feel they'll be victimized, but someone must bail the cat. So the question is, to my former dean, Dean Atuguba, to whom Professor Kweku Asari has addressed that question, and the others on the General Legal Counsel, how can it be that you have an exam and nobody knows what the pass mark is? And so what? It's discretionary, it's unilateral, it's at the what? Behest of the powers that be. So in any given year, for example, the General Legal Counsel could decide the pass mark is 70%, because this year so many people have crossed the 50% mark and we don't have enough space. While in previous years, by and large, it has been 50%. And it's all discretionary. How? How can we have that? When I attended the University of Ghana as a postgraduate student, there were different phases. You sit the entrance exam, you have to pass 2 essay questions, you have to write some sense, they'll check your grammar, your analytical skills, your knowledge of current affairs. Then you get to the next stage where, you know, it will be whittled down, then the interview stage. Why can't we have a system where people know that, look, this is what it takes? Fair. I mean, they determined, even when I was entering the University of Ghana Law School or faculty, they determined the pass mark, which, well, maybe not too many of us knew or nobody knew. But how can we sustain such a system? Not at our primary level, not at the basic level, BECE, not at the SHS level, not at the university level does that apply. But once it gets to law school, then all of a sudden everything is a haze, misty, very vague, ambiguous. Why? You know, it's a question really our legal system must address. And I'm wholly for what Professor Kweku Asari says. I am blunt. I say it as it is. It makes absolutely no sense. Just a control mechanism. And in the meantime, you have the likes of Kenya, Rwanda, all of whom didn't have law schools when we got our law school, courtesy of Kwame Nkrumah. And these very people who today are the elites, the luminaries, when it comes to legal education, went through that system without any hurdles. Yet look at how we've turned what we've turned the system into. It's heartbreaking, really. And like I said, I really don't care who feels offended, whose corns feel treaded on. The truth is the truth. As an old Vandal, truth stands. Anyway, I'll be getting into that story as well, but reparations for Africa, long overdue. I have quite some thinking on this as well. While I feel, yes, like the Benin bronzes that are being returned, artifacts that were looted that are being returned from Germany and Belgium recently, the tooth, the only bit that was left, only fragment left of Patrice Lumumba, after the Belgians, you know, oversaw that he was killed, his body, you know, dissolved in acid and all of that. Cruel way of dispatching somebody. But apart from that, yes, maybe, yes, reparation, I agree. But I feel with what we've had, how long ago has it been since we hit independence? And I see you, Liz, I'll be coming to you shortly, but I'm just giving vent to some thoughts this morning. How many years have we been independent in Ghana? 65. Within that period, what have we done for ourselves? Within this period, we should have done enough to prove to the colonialist powers, the imperialists, that what Kwame Nkrumah said was true, that we can man our own affairs. Yeah, we're manning our own affairs all the way to the IMF. Yetisikaso. So why can't we make something out of the sika we have? We have it all. All right, Liz, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I get passionate about these matters because as a young person looking, sometimes you go to other countries, then you look at your own country and you feel irked. Your spirit is provoked because you look at us like, mention was made a short while ago about Cuba, right? Cuba has been under an embargo since the, 1950s, since Fidel Castro and his people came to power, and all the way till now, stiffer under Donald Trump, being eased up a bit now, but they've survived. I have lived in Cuba. They've survived to the point where these antique vehicles, people travel to Cuba just to watch them. They realized they didn't have much, so they capitalized on tourism. You should go there and see what they're doing. We have everything yet. Your quick thoughts on that, and then we can talk about legal education. Nothing in this country makes sense to me anymore.
Necessity is the mother of invention. So if you look at Cuba, because they're closed, they know that they have to develop, they have to find a way out for themselves. They're not depending upon anybody but themselves. So they work at what they have and they sustain and keep what they have. And so if you look at Cuba, Cuba looks like it's heaven on earth because they've done everything for themselves. Again, when you're open, like we are, and talk about free trade, and then you have this globalized world where it has become like a village, and everything is being thrown at you. You're not closed like Cuba is, so you're accepting everything left, right, center. You're not producing anything for yourself, and therefore, instead of going forward, we seem to be going backwards because when you produce something in Ghana, your cost is so high, you don't know how much you're going to sell it for. And then again, we have developed ourselves into a people who believe that anything that comes from outside is better than what we have. And so when we are looking at quality, we are looking at quality with regards to what is produced in America and the UK and Germany. And we are not patronizing what we are producing ourselves. But if you don't patronize what you're producing, then your producers don't get enough money to be able to improve what they're giving you in the first place. So again, we shoot ourselves in the foot because if you go into a shop and you see something that is made outside and there's something that is made in Ghana, you're likely to pick what is made outside because you think that it's of better quality. But they have done it so because they have bought their own things over time, and so their factories get better and better. We do not patronize our stuff, so our factories do not get better because they are always cash-strapped. And if we don't look at that and we don't avert our minds to patronizing what we ourselves are producing, we won't go anywhere.
Well, just a bit of that story for those who are watching us. So page 16, on the law school entrance exams, critics, including lawyers, law students, and some civil society organizations, have poured scorn on the decision, of course, which has created a heated public discussion. That is to have this undertaking not to challenge the results of the examination. However, those in support of the decision think the GLC is being practical owing to the limited space in the Ghana School of Law compared to the overwhelming number of Bachelor of Law graduates who want to enter law school to read the professional course. So what this simply means, Liz, is it's not that you are not qualified. It's not that you don't know enough. It is just that because we have a paucity of space, we're going to do everything possible to eliminate you in whichever way possible. And for me, that is mind-boggling. It is fatalistic, and it is even unpatriotic because, like I'm saying, in other countries, you know one thing that even makes this entire saga so nauseating? The point that, I think, is it the Upper East or the Upper West? There are about 3 lawyers, 3, operating there in an entire region. There is such a shortage of legal brains to handle cases across the country. Yet, we have a system that has created some sort of ivory tower-like, place where it is just for a few people. And, if I keep on, I think I'll just explode. So I'll leave it there. But let's
don't get frustrated.
No, I do not know. Some of our leaders across different, facets of our society. Sometimes you look at decisions. It just makes you. It's like the whole decision about the SIM card re-registration. Let me bring that in. You want people to re-register. Okay, not a problem. Registered people, you want them to re-register. Okay, that's fine. Now you create impediments because you want them to re-register only with a certain Ghana card. And a lot of people don't have this Ghana card through no fault of theirs. Next thing you know, you now want them to pay 5 cedis for something that has nothing to do with them, something that they did not create. I mean, why is it that in this country, everything must be queue, long queue, go stand, bake in the sun? And for me, the most heartbreaking part, elderly people. That is what I see that even, racks, my heart. Elderly people, 70, septuagenarians, octogenarians and stuff, baking in the sun, sitting for a whole day. People who are supposed to be productive at work just because they are afraid you will, block them out of the system. To what end? Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
I asked one question when I went to re-register my phone. And my question was, how do you take my fingerprints with a camera? What kind of a camera are you using? And so I questioned, and the lady just looked at me because she didn't have an answer. Because you just put your finger there. She uses her phone. And I'm like, do you have my ID card on your phone? And she's just looking at me. So I registered one phone and decided I won't register the other. If they'll block it, they should block it. And I intentionally did that. And the one that I did not register is the official phone. So let's see what happens. Because they are not giving us answers to certain questions that you are asking. I thought that if you needed my fingerprints, I would have to thumbprint or fingerprint something. Because I don't see how you're going to get all those lines in my fingers with your camera. Unless it is a highly sophisticated camera, and I didn't see that.
Well, we'll see how things go. The latest we've heard, though, is that people are now, some of them take quick loans. I hear, depending on how long you've been with the network, you can take up to 2,000 Ghana cedis and others. And some people, though I am not in support of that because the system has worked, but some people have also taken loans and they're saying, okay, you want to block us out of the system, block us, block those chips, and I'm not paying back. But I mean, that is also on the other side criminal, so to speak. But it just tells you that when people hit a brick wall, it's like bouncing a ball against a wall. It will come back right back at you.
Now, let me go back to the lawyers. And I have said time and again that I'm surprised that our Ghana Law School has not expanded yet. Because like you said, you're talking about the Upper West that has only 3 lawyers. And then you have people saying that we churn out so many lawyers, and what do the lawyers do? If you churn out lawyers and they choose where they want to work and they choose where they want to stay, then you have a problem like this one. So you realize that in Accra, we might say that there's a concentration of lawyers. And then when you go outside of Accra, you don't have that many to attend court as regularly as you want them to. But I think that over the years, I've seen the same number of lawyers being trained till lately. And for me, it was a good thing that you have more people wanting to read law. Because if you have a lot more lawyers, if you have people understanding our constitutions and our laws and our acts better, and being able to explain it better to the people, then you know that the people are working within a certain permit, because they understand what they need to do. They understand the issues when it comes to law, because you have a lot more people who can explain it to them. You have a lot more people that they can go to. But we are not saying that. And when you talk about then trying to exclude certain people, then it becomes very worrisome for me. Because if you're taking a certain class of people and you're not taking a certain class of people, are you sure that the class of people that you're taking will go out into the rural areas to work? And so we need the law school to grow. We need the law school to expand. It's good that a lot more people want to read law. I never wanted to read law. I thought that my family had too many lawyers and too many judges. So if I needed anything, I could fall on one of them. But it's good, especially for those who are outside of Accra, especially for those who do not understand the law in its totality, especially for those who sometimes do certain things and question why you think that they've done it wrongly or why they're out of the law. If you're not explaining the laws to the people, how do you expect them to be able to abide by them? So I think that we need to do a lot more work when it comes to training lawyers and dealing with our laws and explaining our laws for the ordinary people to understand. We all know that we have a constitution. How many people have the constitution? How many people understand the constitution? So we know we go and vote for people to go into parliament, but how many of us understand what they're in parliament for? And that I would always be at their doors knocking and asking for money to pay school fees and things, because we think that they're in a position to be able to get that money to help us. And so we need to go real down and make sure that every region, and now we have 16 of them, have enough lawyers that will help the citizens, because that is what they're there for.
And just as I move on to the next story, just one thought that I missed. Again, why can't we have, you know, with the executive MBAs and others, so you have weekend classes, weekend sessions and all of that, or evening sessions. Why can't we do that? So another area of concern in there is they force the system. If you want to read law, you must necessarily stop work.
Exactly.
Stop work. How do you fund your education? How do you, you know, if you wanted to look at me, for example, so you want me to stop what I'm doing, come and do law, and maybe come back here, and you expect that, you know, the slot will still be open for me. I mean, the dynamics are, sometimes you sit and think about it and you ask, who are these people thinking in these places? I'm sorry, I'm being very blunt. How? No, in today's world where you don't stop one thing and just move on to another, people are combining multiple things. You want me to just stop my work, uproot myself. How do you expect me to pay my school fees and all of that? Final thoughts there, and let's move on.
Over the years, we have built lawyers into a class of their own. And so you're privileged to belong to the law fraternity, if I should put it that way. And so they see a lot more people joining them as watering down what they have. But again, that is not what we're looking at. It's not your status that we are interested in. It's the education of the people. It's the education of the citizenry. It's the building up of a nation that understands its laws, so that it can work within that pursuit. If you don't have people understanding, that's why we'll have our prisons crowded, because nobody's explaining anything to anybody. And then little misdemeanor, and they throw you into prison. I mean, we should grow beyond that. I even said that the prison systems should be expanded such that little misdemeanors, you serve like, what do they call it?
Community service. Community service.
Community service. You do some community service to make up for
Well, I think recently the president assented to plea bargaining, I think. So
yes.
now there are going to be some mitigating factors so that people can have some breathing room.
We should have had that long ago, instead of us sticking to one stringent rule of doing things when it comes to the law. And again, when you're talking about people who are working, right now law is like a second degree. You're looking at people who are working, and yet you're expecting them to leave their work and come study. And so who fills in those spaces? And when you finish reading your law and you want to go back to where you're working, you think your employers are waiting for you. They must have filled it up. And like you're saying, why don't we find other ways of training lawyers rather than just have the Ghana Law School that everybody has to go through? There are other faculties of law that have come up with Zenith and Gimpa and others. But when you finish with those, you definitely have to go through the law school. And the law school has not grown.
Other stories, let's do some business-related stories quickly and move on. Non-traditional export earnings hit $3.3 billion in 2021. That is an increment from $2.84 billion in 2020 to $3.33 billion in 2021. It represents an increase of 17%. Now, the performance is associated with economic recovery post-COVID-19 on global trade, which the WTO forecast to expand with double-digit numbers. I see forecasted in the daily graphic. Forecasted. So, which the World Trade Organization forecast to expand with double-digit numbers. It's like saying broadcasted, which we often, but broadcast. Anyway, so that story, and then graphic business.
The printer's devil.
Is it a printer's devil? Really? Business, graphic business. Industry wants say in IMF negotiations, and the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has expressed readiness to partner the government to negotiate a good deal with the IMF to help accelerate the recovery of the country's economy. And then again, interest cost wipes off 55% of tax revenue. Inflation, CD fall to blame. Let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper list. On page 17, which is the banner headline, Veep inaugurates 100-kilometer rehabilitated Kumasi roads. Military officer dies of monkeypox in Bolga. That's a sad development. I think outside of Africa, listening to the BBC yesterday, I think only 4 people have died, but within Africa, quite a number. Resolve issues surrounding LPG supply to end tanker drivers' strike. That is COPEC Ghana appealing to government. And transatlantic slave trade in Africa. President demands apology compensation from European nations. Let's focus on page 17 on the issue of LPG drivers and move on. So the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC Ghana, has urged the government to immediately resolve pending liquefied petroleum gas issues with industry players to restore supply of the product in the country. It said the Ghana National Tanker Drivers Association, Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketing Companies, and the Ghana Liquefied Petroleum Gas Operators Association had withdrawn their services effective yesterday because their concerns had lingered for long. A statement issued in Accra yesterday by COPEC's Executive Secretary, Duncan Amwa, said consumers would continue to bear the brunt as all LPG outlets remain non-operational. So touching on the genesis of the problems, just to give you more scope, Liz, it's said, that is the MPA said, after the atomic gas explosion about 5 years ago, the MPA under its former chief executive, Hassan Tampuli, directed the freezing of the permits of a number of stations under construction. Several years down the line, this ban is yet to be lifted, thereby leaving the various companies who had invested heavily in the construction of these retail points heavily debt distressed, as they are constantly harassed by their banks and other finance entities who had advanced various loans to put up these stations. So again, policy. Something catastrophic happened. In fact, I was in the neighborhood and I felt what had happened then, the explosion. On the back of that, you put in place measures to regulate, mitigate the situation. What do you do ahead of that or after that? Put in measures as well so that these people don't lose out. All you need to do is ensure they are in compliance. But here we are, we're resolving one problem and creating other problems at the same time.
And I am here thinking, how long has this gone on? Again, I can feel the pain of the drivers and those who are involved in LPG distribution, because if for several years your source of income, let me use the word advisedly, it's being toyed with, then you'd want to find out what exactly is happening to you. And when you talk about people's debts not being paid, and they're not being productive, so they can't really pay their debts, and so the interest is accruing. So you'd owe the banks far more than you envisaged that you'd owe them. But again, then your job too is on the line, because you're not producing, or you're not doing as well as you expected that you'd be doing. So all these questions are running through my mind. And you said, yes, it's back to policy. And why has government waited so long? Do we always have to come to the point where somebody has to protest before we act?
It appears that's the only language we understand.
Which is bad, because then it means that somebody is not doing the work. Whose table is it on? Why is the person not taking action? Why is the person still at post after so many years? And these are questions that keep running through my mind, because if you want a smooth system, then you should have people who are there who know what they have to do and are doing what they have to do. Otherwise, we will keep going forward and coming backward, and going forward and coming backward. Fine, there was an explosion was it the one in Atomic?
Yes.
The one at Atomic Junction? So there was that explosion. So you needed to ensure that all these people were complying with regulations, so that you don't have a leakage that will cause that much havoc anymore. Who is going around? Who is doing the monitoring? Who is doing the evaluation? Who is going around to make sure that all these LPG stations are well protected? I remember there was one at Trade Fair even before the Atomic Junction one. And so my question was, but there was one recently. We lost very close friends and loved ones. Why are we waiting for another one to occur? Another one has occurred, and up till now, nothing has been done. So we don't know what we are doing. We are not serious with what we have to do. And if we are using LPG so we keep our forests, and you are not making sure that people get it and at reasonable prices, then we're just going.
What are we doing then? Well, let's just wrap with these two stories very quickly. I'll read a number of stories, but I'll focus on just two, and maybe in a minute and a half we can wrap with those. The Daily Guide newspaper. NPP foot soldiers cry for reshuffle. I'll be telling you a bit about that. Daughter killer dashes to court. There's a picture here of Oliver Baka Voma, or Kumanga, as they put it here, set for High Court trial. More projects coming, Baumia assures Asanteman. There's also the Finder newspaper. SIM card registration centers empty following deadline extension, but NIA head office remains inundated. There's Japanese government donates 23 vehicles to Ghana Police Service. Yeah, this is what we know. Receiving every time. When are we also going to grow up and give? Even the Bible says it. There's more, joy. It's better to, give than receive. We're always going pan in hand. Give me, give me, give me, give me. Reminds me of a boy in Liberia, Monrovia, back then. Interesting story. Maybe I'll tell you someday, Liz. And there's the Meridian. NPA assists Zambia to fight fuel adulteration. Interesting. So those two stories I want you to look at. NPP foot soldiers cry for reshuffle, and the group is Alliance for Foot Soldiers Advocacy, which is appealing to President Akufo-Addo to reshuffle his ministers as a matter of urgency. Ministers, deputy ministers, CEOs, they want them reshuffled. And the Finder, Japanese government donates 23 vehicles to Ghana, as well as SIM card registration centers empty following the pushing of the deadline. You can pick two and react to them in a minute, and we're off.
I'm thinking about reshuffling, and I'm wondering, when you reshuffle, it's the same ministers that you're moving around. But have we seen the ministers get A+?
I think a reshuffle should also be able to include getting someone who is not performing out and bringing someone completely different in.
Exactly. But again, I am saying that have we been able to examine to know those who should stay and those who should go? If you look at the ministries that you probably deal with, is it anything to write home about? I sit and watch, and I think that there's a lot that needs to be done. Reshuffling alone, it won't solve our problems. We need to build strong institutions. And if our ministries, departments, and agencies are not strong institutions, then we have a lot of work to do. So yes, maybe a reshuffle will help us because new ideas will be brought in and people will be able to think outside the box and become creative and do certain things differently. But we as a people should also call for certain things. Apart from reshuffling, we should make sure that our ministries are up and doing, our departments and agencies are up and doing. And I think that if we call for that and we insist that we get value for money as regards the services that we are expecting them to put out, then we'll be way ahead. We won't be dragging our feet, or we won't be crawling.
Right.
You mentioned another
SIM card registration centers. Now, the deadline has been postponed, and all of a sudden they are empty again. I guess it's a cat and mouse situation. Maybe some 20 seconds on that.
I believe that people think that now they have time, so they are not pressed. You know, people would leave anything they are doing just to go on queue to get it registered because you have a deadline, and if you don't get it done. And so people left their jobs and everything and went to queue. Now that it has been extended, I think that Ghanaians, we like last minute. But I believe that over time, what I don't see is NCA and the telecos being proactive, also going out. You want people to come to your offices, but your offices are not everywhere. So if I have to leave where I work, I probably have to travel some distance to your office to be able to sit there and wait and register my SIM card. Can we have them move into the communities? So you say that you're in this community for a period of time and people should come and register, and have people who are dedicated to that. Right. I mean, just registering SIM cards rather than going into their office. Sometimes their offices are crowded. Yeah. People are outside in the sun. There's nowhere for them to sit. Some of them are standing around waiting for hours on end. Can they go out and make sure that we provide this service and see what the Ministry of Communications can do to help them? So people do not spend the whole day just waiting to register. If I come to register my SIM card, it will be when I think I have time to do so. But maybe I have other priorities. So you'll see the centers empty because people left their jobs to come and sit there because there was a deadline.
Well, I guess it's a situation we're going to have to deal with some way or other. I know the telcos have made some effort, though, to remedy that. But thank you so much, Liz, for joining us for another Tuesday morning. Colorful outfit. Do have a good day.
Thank you also.
Well, that has been media consultant Liz Hayfon Asari drinking tea with us over the newspapers. Up next, we have sports. Do stay.